On Friday, a couple were hit with criminal charges after a toddler reportedly found a gun and shot himself in the head at a St. Louis, Missouri home in late August. The baby boy's mother, 24-year-old Aaliyah Little, and her boyfriend, 30-year-old Donald Straughter, were each charged with 1 count of child endangerment resulting in death and are held without bond. The incident occurred at around 1 p.m. on the 31st of August, when the authorities responded to a home located at 956 Melvin Drive on reports of an accidental shooting involving a child. When officers arrived, they located 21-month-old Corey Patterson who had been shot in the head and was reportedly bleeding profusely and was laboured in his breathing. Deputies moved the boy into a police car and started driving towards the hospital because the estimated arrival time of the ambulance was going to be too great. The police car met the ambulance on the way to the hospital and the medics took Corey the rest of the way, but he was pronounced dead on arrival. The authorities said that the couple were lying in bed with Corey at Aaliyah's home when the boy crawled off the bed and went into another room. A few minutes later they heard a gunshot and found Corey slumped over in a pool of blood. Aaliyah reportedly told investigators that Donald had put his gun on a television stand the night before and that the gun would have been within the boy's reach. She also said she knew the gun was there and neither her nor Donald moved it. Aaliyah said that after finding Corey, Donald said, "They can't know I had this gun. They can't know he shot himself with this gun." Donald then drove off in his vehicle, leaving Aaliyah at home with Corey. Donald did not go to the hospital where Corey was taken and did not respond to efforts to reach him. A neighbour reportedly heard a muffled gunshot and then seeing a man run from the home and drive off in a vehicle. The boy's grandfather, Lee Little, said his daughter called him right after the shooting and he rushed over from his house, which was about 3 miles away, and went in the police car and ambulance with the little boy. "I kept telling him to breathe and he would take a breath. I said, 'Corey, if you hear me, hug me.' He wrapped his arm around me and he took a breath and he never took another one." Lee said his grandson loved to accompany him on neighbourhood walks and play with all the dogs on the block. He said Corey also loved animals, eating ice cubes and running up and down the neighbourhood street. "The walks were my way of teaching him about birds and flowers and dogs and squirrels, and we'll go over the ABCs and go over our numbers. He was such a wonderful kid, and he was going to be a wonderful person one day," Lee said. 47-year-old Michael Williams is behind bars after being accused of fatally shooting his ex-wife and her adult son. At 7:56 p.m. on the 18th of September, the authorities responded to 1322 East Parkway in DeLand, Florida, after Michael called 911, telling dispatchers that he had shot 2 people inside the home. Upon arrival, deputies contacted Michael, who was sitting in a vehicle parked in the driveway. He surrendered and was taken into custody without incident. When officers entered the residence, they found the bodies of 2 victims with fatal gunshot wounds. They were identified as 48-year-old Marsha E. Banks Williams and her 28-year-old son Robert Adams. Robert was visiting from Tallahassee and brought his 2 children aged 6 and 5 with him, who were present during the shooting but were found inside unharmed. During the investigation, detectives learnt that Michael got into an argument with Marsha and Robert regarding the electricity in the house. Michael was upset because he believed his ex-wife and her son were leaving the lights on and were using too much electricity. Leading up to the argument and shooting, Michael shut the power off to the home, locked the electrical panel, and left. When he returned, the victims had cut the lock, restoring the power to the home. Michael told detectives that he was attacked, held down and punched repeatedly in the face during the argument, so he shot them in self-defense. The investigators noted that Michael did not have any apparent injuries that would indicate a significant physical altercation, other than some superficial scratches. Michael has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder and is held at the Volusia County Jail without bond. Michael and Marsha were reportedly married for 10 years and they do not share any children. Though they divorced in June, they were still living together in the same house. They each called their sheriff's office on occasions over the past several months to document verbal arguments about the property and living arrangements. However, there were no allegations of domestic violence or any threats of violence. The investigation into the matter continues. 2 parents and a grandmother are behind bars and face abuse charges. On the 18th of September, the Hocking County Sheriff's Office in Ohio, along with the help of a special response team, executed a search warrant at a residence on Bear Run Road in relation to a sexual assault investigation. When law officials entered the home, which was in deplorable condition, they located a 3-year-old child inside a cage, which was secured with zip ties. The cage that the child was in was filled with bugs, had sore bedding, and a cup full of spoiled milk. A 2-year-old baby was also found walking around the residence holding a meth pipe. The parents of the toddlers left the children and fled the residence due to their involvement with a sexual assault investigation. The 2 babies were able to be safely taken away and placed into emergency foster care. The grandmother, 61-year-old Ella Webb, was taken into custody. The following day, the children's parents, 38-year-old Franklin Varney and 25-year-old Megan Smith, were taken into custody after being chased on foot through the woods near the property on Bear Run Road. The trio are charged with third-degree felony charges of endangering children. Additional charges against Franklin and Megan are expected.